Okay, today I want to show you the Illuminati card, the Combined Disasters card, and I want to show you how it is the two disasters that are referenced on this card are fire and earthquake. And you can look up this card online. There's some information about it, but on this website here, the real reference, or the real clock tower that's referenced on this card here, is the Ginza Waco clock tower in Tokyo, Japan. And this video is going to be a part 1. I'm going to do a second part of this, so I'm not going to get real in-depth in the detail of dates and stuff and numbers with this card. I just want to show the rituals for the combined disaster and how they are directly referencing the Wormwood Star from Revelation 8:11. And on my channel, that's the focus, is the Wormwood Star from Revelation 8:11. And this card directly references Revelation 8:11. But I'm going to show that in part 2 in more detail. But for now, the origin of the image on this card is the September 1st, 1923 Great Kanto earthquake in Japan. This was an 8.0 earthquake, and if we look at the Wikipedia page, the information that it gives is a combined ritual or combined disaster. If we look at this, it says the single greatest loss of life was caused by a fire tornado in downtown Tokyo, where 38,000 people were incinerated after taking shelter following the earthquake. So you right away you have the fire was actually the greater loss of life following the earthquake, even though it was a very large earthquake. And if we fast forward to recent events, the two rituals or events that are the combined disaster of the fire and the earthquake is 9/11/2001. This is a symbolic ritual among many other things. And the Orlando Pulse shooting on June 12, 2016, that shooting or that terrorist attack represents the earthquake. The pulse is the earthquake. And symbolically, we were told that the fire from the jet fuel brought down the towers, so we have the fire and the earthquake. And I guess it's been almost 18 years since 9/11, and if you don't understand that the deception that goes along with everything and all the events around 9/11, if you don't understand that, I guess this isn't the place for you. I guess you need to put your big boy pants on and start doing some research. But these are symbolic rituals, and along with the symbolism, are the next most important thing, or equally important, are the numbers that go along with it. So if we look at Revelation 9:11, which was ritualized, or one of the things ritualized in the events of 9/11, it references Apollyon, and Apollyon is associated with the sun. So there's our fire portion. And of course Revelation 6:12, which is represented by the Pulse Orlando terrorist attack, is about the great earthquake. And in that verse in Revelation, it also references a solar and lunar eclipse, with the last line, the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Solar and lunar eclipse reference. And I'm going to cover some eclipse symbolism and rituals and DNA rituals that kind of all go together here with 9/11 and the combined disaster card. I threw this nuclear non-proliferation treaty in here just to show you the another reference to nuclear or fire and earthquake. It was signed on July 1st, 1968, and became effective on March 5th, 1970. So there was 612 days between those dates for our reference to Revelation 6:12. And there's other events associated with these dates, but I'm just kind of trying to keep this video short, I guess. But there's more to this and more I could show you guys. And I'll get to more of that in part 2. So if we look at the character of Osama bin Laden, and we look at 9/11 in the reference of time as a time ritual, Osama bin Laden became the leader of Al-Qaeda on 8/11/88. The attack was on 9/11, and the attack lasted a total of 6,120 seconds. So you have your 8/11, 9/11, and your 6/12 for your Revelation verse references. And if we sum those numbers, we get 2,334. And this is our first reference to the Great Pyramid of Giza. The base, the length of the base of the pyramid is given as 230.34 meters. And without the 0, we have the 2334, our first pyramid reference here. The 6/12 time ritual. All these rituals involve time. It's a big part of the decoding, and part of the ritual here is time itself and time on the clock. Times on the clock. If we look at all these victims, all 49 victims, if you sum their ages, it sums to 1,440 for the 1,440 minutes of the day. Okay, so if we look at the total deaths for 9/11 and the Orlando shooting, we have 2,996 total deaths on 9/11 and 50 total deaths on June 12th, and that sums to 3,046. And without the 0, we have 346, and this is referencing our time between the eclipses, between the X-eclipses. The path of the second American eclipse crosses over Carbondale, Illinois in 2024 and completes the X. And this is where I'm going to show you the DNA part of the ritual. Also, there's a DNA ritual with 9/11 and these two eclipses. On 9/11/2001, Osama bin Laden was 2,322 weeks and 3 days old. So he was in his 2,323rd week, or a 2323. And this is a DNA or chromosome reference, because in reproduction, the male and female contribute 23 chromosomes to complete the child. And that's what the towers, among many other things, represented, was the 23 and 23. So you had, out of 2 comes 1, so the destruction of the twin towers and then the building of the single tower on ground 0. And the X eclipse is also a reference to the shape of a chromosome, an X, the 46 combined chromosomes for reproduction. And of course the X eclipse is over Carbondale, Illinois, and all life is carbon based. And if we look at that number again, the 23 and 23, if we take 23 times 23, it's 529. And the One World Trade Center, the observatory, opened on 5/29/2015. And if we look at the X eclipse, the path of the second eclipse over America on April 8th, 2024, it's 8 years and 10 months and 10 days after the opening of the observatory. And that's for our 8/11, our reference to wormwood. Another 529 and chromosome reference here, the 23 and 23. If we look at 5/29/2001 and we look at 3 months and 14 days, the 14th day after 5/29 was 9/11/01, which represents pi, or the cycle, a completed cycle. Look at more Egyptian symbolism and pyramid symbolism here. The ringleader, we are told, of the 9/11 attacks was Muhammad Atta, and his name in ordinal gematria sums to 101. And I've shown the importance of the 101 before. But 101 is the 26th prime number, and the Masonic arch represents the 101 as well. The two pillars, the steps, and the gateway, the Stargate, form a 101. But if we look at the ages of all the hijackers on 9/11, if we sum their total ages, or the total sum of their ages is 456. And if we look at that in reference to the height of the pyramid, the exact height currently without the capstone, the height of the pyramid is 455.38 feet. So you're in the 456th feet, or 56th foot of height, and that's the total sum of the ages of the terrorists, we are told, of the 19 hijackers. And the symbolism for Muhammad Atta, he was the only terrorist from Egypt, so they have him placed on top like a capstone. And from antiquity, the pyramid was 481 feet, and currently it's 455, so it's a difference of 26 feet. Again, 26 prime is 101. And for the capstone reference to 9/11, the Twin Towers and the single tower, the One World Trade Center, if we look at that time period between 9/11 and the opening of the Freedom Tower on November 3rd, 2014, it's 4,801 days. A reference to the height of the pyramid with the capstone, 481 feet. And what that single tower now represents, it represents the middle path on the tree of life. The Twin Towers were each pillar, the Boaz and Yakin, and the One World Trade Center represents the middle path, a ritual to the tree of life. There's also a Dog Star Sirius ritual. The Dog Star Sirius here is at the 104 degree ecliptic longitude, and if we look at the One World Trade Center, it is listed as 104 standard floors high. It's actually only 94 stories, but it's also listed or referenced as 104 standard floors high, and this is a reference to Sirius, which is at the 104 ecliptic. And if we look at the opening of the observatory on May 29, 2015, and the helical rising of Sirius in 2019 on August 3rd, that will be during the 219th week after the opening of the observatory. And I showed before that on 2/19/2019, this is the 911th week after 9/11. A lot of references to 219, which could represent 2019 without the zero, of course. And let's see here. I want to show you one more reference to Revelation 8:11 and time and the World Trade Centers. If you look at 8 hours and 11 minutes on the clock, it is 491 minutes. And we're going to look at the beginning of the construction of the World Trade Centers. Construction of the World Trade Centers began on August 5th, 1966 was the groundbreaking. And if we look at that time period from August 5th, 1966 to 9/11/2001, you can find a Wormwood reference here. It's 35 years, 1 month, and 7 total days from the beginning of construction or groundbreaking to 9/11. So if we look at this number as a 3517, 3517 is the 491st prime for a Revelation 8:11 reference, time reference. 491 minutes is 8:11. And I'm going to continue on in part 2, getting into a lot more detail about the events and numbers that are directly referenced in this card about wormwood. And yeah, I guess that's it for now. So I already have that video all ready to go. Just have to sit down and record it. Thanks for watching, guys.